Hi, everyone, and welcome to Reimagine Agriculture, the podcast where we explore the future of farming, food, and rural life across Europe through the eyes of the people shaping it. I'm Teresa Carvalho, and in this series, we'll meet people from across Europe who are reshaping the future of agriculture. In this episode, we'll be talking to Shaila Darmos. Shaila is the co founder and director of the Southern Lights nonprofit organization and of the Regenerative Farming Greece initiative. As a young farmer, she plays a very active role in shaping the country's regenerative agriculture movement. Hi, Shaila.
Hello, hi Teresa. Great to be
Hi.
here with you.
Great to meet you. Can you introduce yourself and share what motivated you to work in agriculture? You studied sociology, so why agriculture specifically, and what attracted you to the regenerative values within agriculture?
Yes. So, yeah, actually it's quite interesting my path to agriculture, but as you shared, I actually studied sociology, but just when I finished studying, my family context brought me back to Greece, where my father had has was running one of the first organic farms in Greece. I was called to continue with that lineage. So it's the farm is actually since 3 or 4 generations in my family, maybe even longer. I haven't found the origin, but in Greece, you inherit the farm from your parents and your grandparents, and and basically I saw all the challenges that people are exposed to in rural countryside, and it's very farming dominated, the area. And I just saw that I can contribute a lot, and I can support the people a lot here through my sociological background and my sociological lens, but through farming actually. So I could combine one of the responsibilities that were given to me with opportunities that I saw for the region to change. And yeah, in terms of the values, I think it's a basic human value to want to regenerate and want to grow health and want to improve things. The question is just if we do have the tools, and if that mindset is also reflected in our work and also in our society overall, if it's promoted or not. And I think this is some of the crucial pieces that we need to unpack.
As we've discussed in our other episodes, the Common Agricultural Policy has environmental and climate objectives that provide space for member states to support regenerative practices. For our listeners who may not be familiar with it, how would you define regenerative agriculture, and how do these practices align with the CAP's objectives, such as environmental and social sustainability?
Yeah, so actually, regenerative agriculture means that you work holistically towards, a more holistic regenerative outcome through your farming operations. You don't only intend to grow food to have a crop, but you also intend to improve the ecosystem, improve your soil, improve on social factors. So when it comes to the relationships with the farm workers, with your business partners, and like throughout the whole value chain, but also for your community. So it's really a very holistic approach, because you realize in farming that everything is so complex, and if you don't tackle it holistically, you will never achieve your goal. And so you realize the same for your farming operation. You cannot only focus on your farm, on improving the soil, but you also need to regenerate the relationships and the financial capacity of your operation, but also of the region as a whole, because we are a system embedded in a broader system, which brings us then to bioregional weaving labs, but I won't unpack this now. And you asked also how much it's reflected in the cup. So actually, there's quite some scientific research that detects that although the cup might have this intention of supporting all these factors, currently it's not getting there. There's a lot of research happening about that we really need to change the cup and how it's set up to really support regenerative farmers through various ways, but we will get there later as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And that being said, we often hear in discussions around agriculture that environmental goals cannot coexist with high yields and economic benefits for farmers. It's really encouraging to hear that there is a way to align these goals, which is sometimes seen as a bit conflicting. How does this look in practice? I mean, how does this shift actually unfold on the ground? And how can we observe the improvements in real time?
Yeah, so I think it's futile to think that you can build long-term financial viability and resilience without using regenerative practices in your farming operation, because in the long term you are eroding the basis of your economic operation, which is the soil, which is the ecosystem health. So there are actually a lot of companies, also very big players, who are slowly transitioning to regenerative practices, realizing that in the long term this is the only thing that will keep them alive. I mean, how can we build a flourishing, thriving enterprise if we're not regenerating the very basis that it is built upon? So already in the thinking, it doesn't make sense. Now, how can we observe that? There are for sure many different tools, and actually, EARA, the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, has just this month published a report or a paper where we actually evaluate a lot of MRV tools. And yeah, the very interesting conclusion. So we evaluate 29 monitoring, reporting, and verification systems that are related to regenerative agriculture. And what we see is that a lot are going in a really good direction, but many of them still struggle to really holistically combine the social, the ecological, and the financial regeneration into one tool. But yeah, it is really crucial to go in that direction.
You've done extensive work on developing robust and evidence based data around regenerative agriculture. Having solid data is crucial, not only for farmers, but also for researchers and policymakers who rely on it to make informed decisions. Building on that, I'd love to hear more about the Southern Lights as well as the Regenerative Farming Greece initiative. Could you tell us a bit about how these initiatives promote regenerative practices in practice and how they connect with CAP instruments or Greece's national CAP strategic plan?
Yeah, so actually, the Regenerative Farming Greece is an initiative we started in 2021, realizing the high demand that we received from farmers all over Greece to get support in transitioning their farming operation. And yeah, so we started with actually creating pilot farms in different areas of Greece for different crops, so we can support real farms and get real insights into the actual challenges, but also create example farms in all over Greece so that farmers can go there and can actually see how things can be done differently. Another very crucial element of our work is to provide education and knowledge. So we create a lot of videos around the topic so that everybody can learn about the different aspects of regenerative agriculture. And this is an ongoing process. And there we collaborate with a lot of organizations from abroad that already have very good material. But we also do in farm trainings, which is a very crucial aspect because the in-person meetings between farmers and between learners of all kinds of backgrounds um, is what actually motivates the people, and what actually, where they see, okay, this is the right way to go. Like, you can really feel the energy between the people. And then one of our most crucial elements of this work is the learning networks that we created in different regions of Greece, and where we keep expanding them because we feel in every region of Greece where people farm, which is actually everywhere, a farmer should have access to a peer-to-peer learning group. Um, and the really important thing that we found is that everybody that has this mindset, every farmer, everybody thinks they are alone, and then they realize, we do one training and they realize, oh wow, there are so many people in my region that also think the way we farm is really nuts, and that want to actively pursue to find another way and to do things differently. So suddenly, where you were in a situation where you felt alone and you felt like, okay, is this right? What I'm thinking, does it make sense? Suddenly you're like, okay, let's go, let's find good ways, and let's keep on learning. Yeah, so I think this is some of the key elements. And then with the Southern Lights, we also work on other more systemic topics. I mean, farming is very systemic, but also topics that are not only focused on farming, which is, for example, to bring arts and culture back to rural Greece, to connect stakeholders across all different topics, and to also support change makers and change agents on their path. So yeah, they're very interlinked and very complementary. At the moment, we are also engaged in a Horizon project, which aims to support on a country level the implementation of the nature restoration regulation. Because it's always a different question what is envisioned on the EU level, but then also how do you bring down all these regulations on the country level and make them context specific and make them in a way that they will actually achieve the positive impact they aim to achieve. And this is going to be also our work in the coming years.
Thank you. Indeed, it's very important for young farmers who want to apply regenerative practices to have the right guidance and support, especially during their first steps. It's very promising to hear about the work that you're doing in this area. I think now would be very interesting for our listeners to hear some real life stories of farmers following the regenerative agriculture journey. Can you share some successful examples of regenerative practices currently applied in Greece, perhaps with the support of the Southern Lights?
Yes, I think so. It's really funny, but we do so many trainings, and then sometimes we hear about the transition journey of the farmer, but it's really that we don't have. Um, Sometimes we miss all the beautiful stories, which then, if we do another training and we meet the farmer again, we're like, oh, amazing, you started doing this practice. So the most insight we have on our pilot farms, and we have quite some farms there that implemented agroforestry systems on their farm, and it's really beautiful to see the biodiversity growing in their farm. We also did recently a collaboration with an insect biodiversity researcher, and so we had the chance to monitor actually the change of the pollinator diversity on those farms, and it's really incredible to see the huge and also quick improvements actually. Those are beautiful stories, and we see that farmers who did steps to transition, we just feel now their farming operation is not only about making an economic benefit, but it's they really tap into this role of becoming ecosystem stewards and community stewards. And so you see people are discover this meaningful mission that they also have actually, and this meaningful role that they have as farmers essentially. It's really beautiful to see. We also see quite some challenges that farmers experience. One, for example, is access to a market that actually recognizes what the farmers do, which is, you need to acquire a full set of different skills if you want to start marketing your products differently. We also saw some limitations in terms of EU regulations or like national regulations in terms of CAP regulations with agroforestry specifically, that it's not well recognized yet. It's not well understood even. So a lot of the practices that farmers do apply to move towards regeneration, they're actually contradicting with the current CAP regulations. So there is still a lot of work that we have to do to really make the CAP in a way that it can support those farmers on their journey.
Yeah, I'm aware that the transition is often the biggest hurdle for farmers. So I'm sure that their journey wasn't easy, especially at the beginning. You already touched on this, but from your perspective, what are the most important challenges farmers face when moving towards regenerative agriculture in terms of CAP requirements, financial risk, administrative burden, and regulatory constraints?
I think you mentioned all of them already, but so one is for sure to have access to knowledge, because suddenly you start farming in a very different way, like all of your neighbors. So the question is, where do you get access to knowledge? And this is why it's one of our key pillars, really. The other one, I think, is also a bit a socio-emotional challenge, because you really need to be, okay with not fitting in quite so much and like really doing things differently. And that's also why we create these communities of practice to to create this supportive environment for farmers to transition. And there also the CAP could be supportive for creating peer exchange networks, as it does exist in some countries, like France is very good in this. Um, and yeah, then we also have challenges in terms of finding access to the right tools. There are some tools that are very expensive that would make the practices much more regenerative, but yeah, it's a very huge investment. So I think also on a regional level, a lot of support could be provided there from the government. And then also, there are a lot of regulations that really actually make it kind of illegal what you do. For example, the agroforestry system that we have on the farm, at the moment, it's not possible anyhow to register it in the in the national system where you register your farming operation, which then very soon, in the coming year probably, it will have as a result that we can't even sell our products anymore. So we actually need to change these regulations quite fast. And it's very important that, the people who will change the regulations, that they have access to the right knowledge, to the right insights into on-farm operations, basically. Another very, very big challenge, and I actually, since we organized this call together, I actually asked a lot of my farmers that we work together with, so how is the CAP supporting you on your regenerative journey? Are there any kind of subventions that you could be getting for what you're doing? And they said, yeah, there are maybe some, that I could get for doing green manure, but the bureaucracy is just too big, and so I gave up. So this is another big challenge that we have to tackle in the new CAP, to make it more simple, to minimize the bureaucratic burden on the farmers, especially when you do a complex, diverse operation. It means that you have more and more and more bureaucracy. So this is also something we need to work out. And then I think very, very crucial for the CAP is to support small-scale farmers, because now it's a very known problem that most of the subventions benefit very, very big farming companies. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you. I mean, we know young farmers are deeply concerned about the environment and the future of the sector. They're full of ideas, they're full of passion, and I'm sure they'll find their way forward. But that being said, they shouldn't be alone in this journey. Policy should support them in their transition to sustainable practices. Looking at the current CAP, what types of support are available for regenerative or regenerative like practices? Where do you see gaps between policy ambition and what farmers really experience on the ground?
Yeah, I think I already touched on this. There are very few support mechanisms for regenerative farmers. They are currently misbuilt. So, for example, there is one eco scheme around agroforestry, but it actually doesn't recognize agroforestry in its true sense. Um, so, I think we still need to fine tune a lot these eco schemes. And then I think we should move away from a practice based subvention system towards an outcome based. So we, instead of giving more money to a farmer if he applies a specific practice before a specific date, we really need to look at the outcome. How does the ecosystem of the farm regenerate? Is the soil improving? Is the plant growth improving? So we really need to find different tools to measure outcome based practices.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's very important to hear diverse voices and perspectives. As we're reaching the end of this episode, I'd like to close on a more positive note. Looking ahead, how do you envision the future of European agriculture? What role do you think regenerative practices will play in shaping its evolution in the coming years?
So I see more and more actors, also big actors, and a lot of small farmers, a lot of young people also moving back to the countryside. So for me, this will have a big impact. I think regenerative agriculture will be at the center of farming in Europe and probably the world, because we see more and more that this actually builds farm resilience and economic resilience. So it makes your enterprise more resilient towards all the the shocks that we are encountering at the moment. So I think it's already going more and more having a center stage role. And yeah, I think it will also bring closer communities around farms, because we all start realizing that having access to healthy food is quite essential. And this thought already brings you to the farmer, because you wonder, where will I find access to this food? And then also the huge role that farms actually play in our landscape, and how they can actually support landscape resilience towards weather extremes, or towards, I mean, they're just essential part of our landscape. So if we don't recognize this and don't support the few managers of those farm ecosystems in, yeah, in contributing and being a key role in our landscape resilience, yeah, I think it's very crucial. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of, yeah, meaningful activities and experiences to have. And I think more and more people are going towards and trying to find ways towards such a life, essentially.
Shyla, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your journey. And to our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about regenerative agriculture, be sure to check out the organizations and networks that Shyla mentioned. And who knows, maybe by the end of this series, we'll have many more regenerative farmers across Europe. Thank you once again for tuning into Reimagine Agriculture, part of the Recap Project, where we bring forward the voices helping to shape a more sustainable, inclusive, and community driven future for European farming. See you in the next episode.